Welcome, and thank you for being here. You're listening to History for Sleep, a place where the past is explored slowly, thoughtfully, and without urgency. Here, we let history unfold at a pace that invites curiosity while allowing rest to arrive naturally. If you enjoy calm storytelling, deep human knowledge, and long journeys through the forgotten wisdom of our ancestors, you're in the right place. And if you find yourself returning, consider subscribing, liking, or sharing this channel with someone who enjoys drifting off alongside history. Now take a breath, let the day loosen its grip, and settle into tonight's story. Tonight, we're exploring how pre-industrial societies predicted the weather long before satellites, radar, thermometers, or barometers ever existed. For most of human history, survival depended on the sky. Rain meant crops. Wind meant travel or disaster. Clouds meant warning. Weather was not background noise. It was a message, and ancient people learned to read it. Without instruments, without equations, without global forecasts, civilizations across the world developed remarkably accurate ways to anticipate storms, droughts, cold snaps, and seasonal shifts. Their methods were observational, communal, spiritual, and deeply tied to the natural world. Some of their predictions were practical. Some were symbolic. Some, even today, defy easy explanation. To understand how this was possible, we must first let go of a modern assumption that technology creates knowledge. In reality, attention does. Pre-industrial societies lived closer to environmental change than we do now. They noticed small shifts because their lives demanded it. A change in bird behavior, a difference in wind direction, a subtle scent in the air. These were not curiosities. They were warnings. Weather knowledge was not specialized. It was shared. Children learned it. Elders refined it. Communities depended on it. And it was passed down orally through stories, rituals, proverbs, and habits that encoded environmental memory. Let us begin with the most universal method of ancient forecasting: observation of the sky. Long before meteorology, people watched clouds with extraordinary care. Not just their presence, but their height, shape, movement, and timing. Ancient cultures distinguished between cloud types intuitively, even without naming them. Low, fast-moving clouds signaled approaching storms. High, wispy clouds often meant stable weather, or change in days to come. Towering formations warned of violent shifts. Farmers knew which clouds meant rain and which meant destruction. Sailors read the sky like a map. In Polynesia, navigators could predict weather days in advance by watching subtle changes in cloud color near the horizon. Certain cloud reflections indicated distant islands, wind patterns, or incoming storms far beyond sight. This knowledge was so precise that early European explorers believed it impossible or exaggerated. It was neither. It was practiced. Another universal indicator was wind. Wind direction, temperature, consistency, and even smell were all meaningful. Pre-industrial societies named winds, tracked their seasonal arrival, and associated them with specific outcomes. In the Mediterranean, certain winds meant heat, others rain, others illness. In parts of Africa and Asia, monsoon winds were anticipated months in advance by shifts in humidity, ocean behavior, and animal movement. Wind was not random. It had personality, and people learned to listen. Then there were the animals. Perhaps the most famous and most misunderstood aspect of ancient weather prediction. Animals respond to pressure changes, humidity, electromagnetic shifts, and subtle environmental cues long before humans consciously register them. Pre-industrial societies noticed this. Birds flying low often signaled rain. Insects swarming differently indicated storms. Livestock refusing to graze warned of approaching extremes. In some cultures, ants building higher mounds meant floods were coming. Frogs croaking at unusual times meant rain. Fish surfacing unexpectedly meant storms at sea. Modern science has since confirmed many of these behaviors are linked to atmospheric pressure and vibration changes. But ancient people did not need confirmation. They trusted patterns. Plants were also teachers. leaves closing early, flowers changing orientation, trees producing unusually heavy seeds. These signs were not interpreted as superstition, but as communication. Some plants were known as living calendars. Their blooming marked seasonal shifts more accurately than dates. Then there is the most overlooked element of all: smell. Pre-industrial people paid attention to scent in ways we no longer do. Certain rains smell different. Ozone before lightning has a sharp edge. Wet soil releases compounds that announce rain before it arrives. These sensory cues were learned, remembered, and taught. Weather knowledge lived in the body. But not all forecasting was purely observational. Many societies embedded weather prediction into ritual and spirituality. This is where modern interpretations often dismiss ancient wisdom too quickly. Ritual was not always about controlling weather. Often it was about tracking it. Ceremonies marked solstices, equinoxes, and seasonal transitions with remarkable astronomical accuracy. These events aligned with agricultural cycles and long-term climate patterns. Stone circles, mounds, temples, and monuments around the world were positioned to track the sun, moon, and stars, all of which influence weather indirectly through seasonal rhythms. Some researchers argue these structures were not just symbolic, but functional calendars, predicting when rains would return, when frost would end, when rivers would swell. And then there are the controversial ideas. The theories that suggest some pre-industrial societies understood atmospheric patterns in ways we still don't fully grasp. There are accounts of weather stones, sacred objects said to change appearance before storms. There are legends of priests who could smell drought years in advance, of elders who predicted floods with unsettling accuracy. Were these myths? Or were they the poetic encoding of long-term pattern recognition? Because when knowledge is passed orally, it often becomes story. And story survives where data does not. As we move deeper into this topic tonight, we'll explore specific cultures, from indigenous American weather lore, to ancient Chinese seasonal systems, to Norse sky interpretation, to desert societies who predicted rain in places where rain was rare. We'll examine what modern science has confirmed, what remains debated, and what may never be fully explained. And we'll ask a quiet question: have we lost something by outsourcing our awareness to instruments? For now, let your breathing slow. Imagine standing outside before dawn, the air still, the sky unread but full of meaning. And somewhere long ago, someone like you watched the same sky and knew what was coming. As the night deepens, let us move further into the world of ancient weather knowledge, where prediction was not written in numbers, but remembered through generations. We begin with indigenous societies of the Americas, whose understanding of weather was so refined that many modern climatologists now study their traditions for insight into long-term climate patterns. For many Native American nations, weather prediction was inseparable from land stewardship. They did not observe nature as outsiders. They were participants within it. Plains tribes watched the behavior of bison and birds to anticipate seasonal shifts. A delayed migration often meant a late winter. Early nesting suggested mild conditions ahead. In the Southwest, Pueblo peoples studied cloud buildup over specific mountain ranges, knowing that storms formed in predictable sequences across the landscape. The Hopi, for example, maintained ceremonial calendars aligned with rainfall cycles that stretched back centuries. Their rituals were not attempts to make rain, as often misrepresented, but acknowledgments of seasonal balance, reminders to the community to prepare, conserve, or plant. In the Amazon, indigenous groups recognized over a dozen distinct seasons, not just wet and dry. Each was marked by subtle changes in insect sounds, river color, and tree behavior. When European explorers arrived, they struggled to survive in environments the locals navigated effortlessly. What appeared to outsiders as intuition was, in reality, data accumulated over thousands of years. Long memory. This concept appears again and again across pre-industrial societies. In ancient China, weather prediction became one of the most sophisticated systems in the world. As early as the Shang dynasty, records were kept of rainfall, droughts, frost dates, and floods. These records weren't abstract. They were tied directly to governance. A ruler who failed to anticipate famine-causing weather was considered morally unfit to rule. Chinese scholars noticed correlations between atmospheric conditions, celestial movement, and seasonal cycles. They developed solar terms, 24 divisions of the year, each associated with predictable environmental changes. These solar terms are still used today. Farmers knew exactly when insects would emerge, when frost would threaten crops, when rain should arrive. When patterns deviated, it was noted, discussed, and remembered. Some historians argue that this may be the earliest form of climatology. Yet even in China, not all weather knowledge was empirical. There were also beliefs that human behavior affected cosmic balance, that corruption, injustice, or neglect of ritual could disrupt natural harmony and lead to floods or droughts. From a modern lens, this sounds symbolic. But from another perspective, it reinforced sustainability. If people believed their actions affected nature, they acted with restraint. In ancient Mesopotamia, weather was both feared and studied. Living between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers meant surviving unpredictable floods and droughts. Clay tablets record meticulous observations of wind direction, cloud formations, and atmospheric conditions. Some tablets describe omens tied to weather, but many of these omens are simply coded observations. For example, a text might say, "If clouds rise in layers and the wind shifts east, the river will swell." That is not mysticism. That is hydrology in poetic form. The same pattern appears in ancient Greece. Greek farmers relied on star calendars, using the rising and setting of constellations to time planting and harvest. Hesiod's Works and Days, written nearly 3,000 years ago, contains practical weather advice disguised as verse. When the Pleiades rise at dawn, begin harvest. When Orion sets, expect storms. These weren't myths. They were seasonal markers. Sailors, too, developed an intimate understanding of weather. Phoenician and later Viking navigators could sense storms days before landfall. The Vikings, in particular, paid close attention to sea swell patterns, cloud halos around the sun, and changes in bird flight. There is a persistent legend that Vikings used sunstones to locate the sun through clouds. For centuries, this was dismissed as myth, until modern experiments demonstrated that certain crystals, like Iceland spar, can polarize light and reveal the sun's position even on overcast days. Once again, ancient knowledge quietly validated. But perhaps the most astonishing weather prediction systems developed in places where weather was most unforgiving. Deserts. In arid regions, predicting rain was a matter of survival. Desert societies learned to read signs that others overlooked entirely. Bedouin groups in the Arabian Peninsula watched the taste of dust in the air. Certain mineral scents indicated distant rainfall hundreds of miles away. They tracked the behavior of camels, whose sensitivity to humidity changes surpassed human perception. Australian Aboriginal groups encoded weather knowledge into songlines, musical narratives that mapped the land, seasons, and environmental changes. By singing these songs in sequence, travelers knew where water would be, when storms would come, and when areas would become dangerous. The songs were maps. The songs were forecasts. And they were remembered perfectly because music anchors memory. This brings us to an important realization. Pre-industrial societies did not separate science, art, and spirituality. Knowledge survived because it was beautiful. It was told as story. It was sung. It was ritualized. And in doing so, it avoided extinction. Now, let us address the quieter, more controversial theories. Some researchers believe ancient people may have been sensitive to environmental cues we have largely lost. There is evidence that humans can perceive changes in atmospheric pressure, electromagnetic fields, and low-frequency vibrations, but only with practice. Modern life numbs these senses. Artificial light disrupts circadian rhythms. Constant noise masks subtle sound changes. Climate-controlled environments dull our awareness of temperature and humidity shifts. Ancient people lived without these buffers. Their bodies were instruments. This raises an unsettling question. Have we mistaken lost sensitivity for ignorance? There are also long-standing legends of weather seers, individuals believed to predict storms with uncanny accuracy. In medieval Europe, such people were often feared or persecuted. In other cultures, they were revered. Modern explanations suggest these individuals were simply hyper-observant, trained from childhood to notice what others missed. But the legends persist, and so does the mystery. As human societies grew larger and more complex, weather prediction became something else entirely. It became power. In many pre-industrial civilizations, the ability to anticipate storms, droughts, or seasonal shifts determined who ruled, who survived, and who was remembered. In ancient Egypt, the rhythm of life was tied to a single event, the annual flooding of the Nile. The flood was not random. Egyptian priests observed the river's color, the timing of snowmelt in distant Ethiopian highlands, and, most famously, the rising of Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky. When Sirius appeared just before sunrise, the flood was near. This celestial event became so reliable that it anchored the entire Egyptian calendar. If the flood came too early, crops drowned. Too late, famine followed. By reading the sky and the river together, Egypt maintained agricultural stability for thousands of years. Some scholars argue this may be one of the earliest examples of long-range seasonal forecasting. And yet, the Egyptians also believed the flood was tied to divine balance. If Ma'at, cosmic order, was disturbed, the river would fail. Again, science and belief were inseparable. But perhaps nowhere was weather prediction more deeply woven into survival than in maritime cultures. The ocean is merciless, and long before barometers or satellites, sailors developed astonishing predictive skill. Polynesian navigators crossed thousands of miles of open ocean without instruments. They read wave interference patterns, subtle cross swells that reflected distant islands. They studied cloud shapes that formed only over land. They memorized the positions of stars not just overhead, but near the horizon. Weather was not something that happened to them. It was something they traveled within. Polynesians could predict storms by noticing how long waves traveled beneath shorter surface ripples. A shift in the ocean's voice, they said, meant distant winds were changing. Modern oceanography now confirms this. Long-period swells often arrive days before weather systems. Once again, ancient knowledge waits patiently to be rediscovered. In medieval Europe, weather prediction took a darker turn. As climate instability increased during the Little Ice Age, society searched for explanations. Crops failed. Winters lengthened. Storms intensified. People noticed that some individuals, often rural elders, seemed better at predicting these changes. Rather than being celebrated, they were feared. This is where weather lore and witchcraft became entangled. Almanacs circulated with practical advice. Cloud reading, animal behavior, seasonal markers. But these same observations were later condemned as superstition. Knowledge didn't vanish. It was silenced. And in silencing it, Europe lost centuries of accumulated environmental understanding. Interestingly, many of these same techniques resurfaced in early modern science under new names. Barometric pressure, phenology, atmospheric circulation. The observations remained. Only the language changed. In the Andes, highland communities developed forecasting methods uniquely suited to extreme altitude. Farmers observed the clarity of the Pleiades constellation in June. If the stars appeared blurred, it meant high atmospheric moisture and heavy rains to come. If the stars were sharp, drought was likely. This method was so reliable that modern scientists studying El Niño patterns found strong correlations between star visibility and rainfall. For centuries, this knowledge was dismissed as folklore. Until it wasn't. Now let us pause on something unsettling. Across cultures, there are repeated references to ancient warnings about climate shifts, great floods, prolonged droughts, sudden cooling. These stories appear in Mesopotamian tablets, indigenous oral histories, Norse myths, and South Asian epics. Some researchers believe these stories are not mythological exaggerations, but memories of real climate events: volcanic winters, rapid sea level rise, abrupt cooling periods. If true, ancient societies weren't just predicting weather. They were recording climate change. And they did so in ways meant to survive catastrophe. Stories endure where data does not. This brings us to the conspiracies. There are claims, often controversial, that ancient civilizations possessed weather knowledge deliberately suppressed or lost due to political shifts, colonization, or the rise of centralized power. While extreme versions of these theories lack evidence, there is a quieter truth beneath them. When empires fall, knowledge fractures. When languages die, data disappears. And when oral traditions are dismissed, entire scientific systems vanish without trace. Today, as modern instruments grow more precise, scientists are turning back to these ancient methods, not out of nostalgia but necessity. Indigenous forecasting is now being integrated into climate modeling. Farmers use phenological indicators again. Sailors still trust the sky when electronics fail. We are, in a sense, remembering what we forgot. Before we move on, take a moment. Imagine standing in an open field thousands of years ago. No screens, no forecasts, only wind on your skin, clouds shifting shape, birds changing direction. And somehow, ancient weather prediction was powerful, but it was not perfect. And when it failed, the consequences were not mild inconveniences or canceled plans. They were collapses. Civilizations did not fall only to war or invasion. Many fell because the sky changed in ways no one expected or could understand in time. One of the most studied examples is the collapse of the Akkadian Empire over 4,000 years ago. For generations, Akkadian rulers relied on predictable rainfall patterns in Mesopotamia. Crops thrived, cities expanded, confidence grew. Then the rain stopped, not gradually, abruptly. Soil records show a sudden, prolonged drought that lasted decades. Dust storms increased, harvests failed, rivers shrank. Ancient weather wisdom had prepared them for variation, but not for permanence. The signs were there: changing wind patterns, shifting river behavior. But the scale was unprecedented, and the empire fractured. This pattern repeats across history. The Maya developed incredibly sophisticated seasonal calendars, astronomical alignments, and agricultural forecasting methods. They understood rainfall cycles better than almost anyone, yet even they were vulnerable. Extended droughts, likely driven by complex climate feedbacks, strained reservoirs, intensified competition, and destabilized political systems. Weather knowledge delayed collapse. It could not prevent it. And this reveals something important. Ancient societies were excellent at reading patterns, but patterns assume continuity. When continuity breaks, prediction fails. There is a quiet lesson here, one that feels uncomfortably modern. In Norse societies, long-term climate cooling changed everything. Weather lore built for temperate conditions no longer matched reality. Growing seasons shortened. Livestock suffered. Migration increased. Legends of endless winters and world-ending cold, like Fimbulwinter, may preserve memory of these transitions. Not prophecy. Memory. In each case, weather prediction systems didn't disappear overnight. They were stretched beyond their limits. And when they broke, people searched for meaning. Some blamed gods. Some blamed leaders. Some blamed each other. But always the sky was watching. Now let us return to the human body, the original instrument. There is growing evidence that pre-industrial humans were far more attuned to environmental cues than we are today. Modern neuroscience suggests the brain constantly processes atmospheric data subconsciously. Pressure changes affect joints. Humidity affects breathing. Light levels affect hormones. Ancient people lived without insulation from these signals. Their discomfort was information. Their instincts were trained. Some anthropologists suggest that what we call gut feelings about weather are remnants of this lost sensitivity. You've likely felt it yourself. A headache before a storm, restlessness before heavy rain, a strange calm before snowfall. Ancient societies trusted these sensations. They shared them. Communities discussed how the air felt, how the animals behaved, how sleep patterns changed. Weather prediction was communal intuition refined by experience. Which raises a difficult question. Have we mistaken comfort for progress? Our buildings protect us. Our screens inform us. But they also separate us. And separation dulls awareness. This is why, when technology fails, ancient knowledge returns instantly. Pilots look out the window. Sailors watch the horizon. Farmers walk their fields. And suddenly the old methods work again. Now there is one final, controversial idea worth addressing before we close this journey. Some researchers propose that ancient societies may have understood long-term climate cycles better than we assume, not in numbers but in narratives. Stories of recurring ages, flood cycles, fire cycles, cold returns. These stories appear globally, often aligned with real geological evidence. They suggest ancient people didn't believe the world was stable. They believed it breathed, expanded, contracted, warmed, cooled. Weather was not random chaos. It was rhythm. And survival depended on listening to it. As this long night of history begins to settle, take a moment to notice your surroundings. The temperature of the room, the weight of the air, the silence between sounds. These are the same signals ancient people noticed, not consciously but constantly. They didn't predict weather because they were wiser than us. They predicted it because they were present. And perhaps that is what we lost. Not knowledge, but attention. In our final moments together, let the sky be quiet. Let the instruments rest. And imagine a world where the wind was enough. Thank you for spending this time with History for Sleep. If you return, the past will be waiting, softly, patiently, just beyond the next horizon. Rest well.